Hi, this is Archana Bahuguna. I'm continuing with the presentation on how to use Flask for building a web app. This is the last part of the presentation, part 3. We will go over the example app, which is the quiz engine app that I have implemented using Flask. I have also just want to make sure that you guys know that you need to install Flask, and you also need to install Flask SQL Alchemy using the same pip install or apt-get install packet executables. So I will go over the web application by actually showing you by using a browser and typing the URL on the browser and then seeing how the code is running, and also going over some parts of the code so we understand certain things better. So if you want to see what so here you can see SQL Alchemy, and Jinja 2 is also installed here. So you need to do Flask SQL Alchemy, sorry, pip install Flask SQL Alchemy to implement this. There are extra packages on this. You'll see some extra packages here because I'm using a virtual environment which I'm also using for another project. But I think all you need to install is Flask and SQL Alchemy. So I'm going to run my app here. And I'm just printing I'm printing the database, the tables that I have defined. So there's a user table, there's a quizzes table, there's a questions table, there's an answers table, and there's a result table. So right now, as you can see, there is at the top the user table. There is no username, password. You don't see any users. But you do see two quizzes, Python Basics and Python Advanced, if you see towards the beginning. And then for quiz 1, for the Python Basics quiz, there are 4 questions, and for the Python Advanced, there are 2 questions. And then there are answers. So it's printing it twice because I have set debug equals true, and it's just reloading it and running it twice. So we will go to the address on which the server is running. You can see that so when I do this, it gets, if you see towards the bottom, it shows you that it has received, the web app has received a GET HTTP request, and it is sending back a 200 OK. And this is what is populated. If you see on the right side on the browser, it says welcome to the quizzes website, and please log in below. Let's say I enter a username and a password. Now if we look at the user table, you can see, if you see towards the top on the left side, you'll see username Bahuguna and an encrypted password. That's the user table. It's printing it twice because I'm probably just doing it wrong somewhere or something like that, or maybe I'm just printing it twice somewhere. And then let's look at the code, what happened inside, and how did this work. So if you look at the top left window, I want to take you to the views file, the views module. So at the top you have three multiple rules. You can say slash index and slash index.html that are going to route to this function def index, and then it checks if the request method is get, and if the request method is get, it prints the utils.display tables is just a printing function that displays all the tables again. And then I'm rendering a template called login.html, which is just showing me this thing. So we can just go into the templates folder, we look at login.html, and we see that we see what was printed. If you remember, when we went there, it showed welcome to the quizzes website, please log in, sign up. And then it presents a form where you can post the information with username and password, just like I did. I said Bahuguna and some password, and it showed a button, submit. So once this whole thing gets entered and I press the submit button, the control comes to the control comes to this page where it automatically takes the control to /login, and then it checks if the request method was post. So when I just typed the address 192.168.3310.50001 / it just rendered the login.html template. And then when I posted the information, a username and password, this is where the control comes in. So it says that, okay, if it is /login, then you come here, and the only method that you should be expecting, the only HTTP method that you should be expecting is post. And it takes all the information that comes in the request.form field for username, for password. It encrypts the password, and then it enters that information. It updates this information into the query. So it first checks if the user exists, and if it does not exist, then where you see models.db.session.add user object, that's where it's entering the user information, username and encrypted password into the database. And it also starts a session for the user. So if username not in session, the session is actually a Flask session. I'm not going to go into the details of this in this presentation. You can see that on the right side, if you look at the browser, you see that the URL address has the same IP and port, but it is appended by a /quizzes. That how that URL got redirected to this is happening here on the left side, where you're setting the location as /quizzes. So as I spoke before, if you want to send a response, and if you want to send a response from your application where you want to specify the status code, a new URL that you want it to route to, or you want to redirect it to a new URL, and also if you want to send some other header information, etc., you actually modify, you have to set these values as like location equals this. You're rendering the template login.html, but at the same time you're using a make response function, which is taking the login.html information for the body, but it is also setting the status code as 303. The 303 is wrong here, it should actually be 302. And it also sets so it returns, the make response function returns a response object, and then you can also set the location in that response object so that the URL is redirected to /quizzes for the user on the browser, and then you say return response. So you can do return render template, you can just do return a string which becomes part of the body, or you can If you want to add a status code, if you want to add more information in the HTTP header for the response, then you can set those values here. So now on the, so that is how this whole thing basically works. So I'm here now on the browser, and I'm going to take Python basics quizzes. So on the left side where the app is running, the bottom window, you can see it got a get request for quizzes /1/questions or and so this is the request URI basically. The /quizzes/1/questions. So /quizzes is your collection of quizzes. Number one is the quiz number one, and then all questions for that quiz. And it's returning a 200 OK response. So this 200 OK is actually, like I said before, being set by Flask as a default value. So what happens when you send a 302 kind of a response? When you send a 302 response, the client browser, the code that is running in the client browser understands that this is a 302, it's a redirect, and so it is supposed to redirect to a different location, and the response.location provides the actual URL or the location that it needs to reroute to redirect to. And so it then sends a GET request with the URL / the location. So it would have sent a request of 192.168.33.10:5001/quizzes, and it would have sent a GET request again to the web server, and the web server would then finally respond with this URL on the right side. So there is one error in the code, I think, that there is no point in sending the render template here. This is an error. I should not be sending a render template here because the code, because this is never going to get displayed because I'm returning a 302 here. So this should just be, this should just have the status code and the location being set here. This render template value, when the client side sees that it is a 302, it's not even going to look at the body of the response, because it's just going to send another GET request for the new URL location, and then that is going to get printed. So on the right side now, the user enters answers to the quiz and sends a submit. So if we see on the right side now, if you look at the URL on the browser, it's there. We are sending a post request to this URL. So we should be looking at the function that handles a post request to this URL and see what that function does. So if you see here in the code, this is where the control is going to come, because we were at quizzes /1/questions, and then we were getting a post message, and then the post message basically sends back, you can see that it is making a query into the database. It's getting all the answers. It's trying to see if the answer was correct or wrong for this user, and then it is sending back the response as answers.html. So now it's going to use this as a template, and then it's going to send back some other information for the template. So then on the browser, if I just want to check my score, it tells me the name, it understands, it identifies me as Abha Guna, and then it tells me that all the 4 answers are correct.